excuse me. Well, hello there.
Hey, everybody.
How are you?
Happy New Year.
Yes, absolutely. Welcome to 2026, ladies and gentlemen.
This is going to be 0201.
Yeah, 020. Oh, yeah,
well, we
that's
started,
right. Gotcha.
Because I did it, I don't know, someplace in the world, the first year is 0, and then once you've made it for a year, that's the first year.
Yeah.
So we did 00 and then numbered episodes.
Yeah.
Last season was 01 numbered episodes. I think we did 18.
Yeah.
We did like 40 some
the first
year.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll do better this week.
And this year then it's going to be 02 numbers. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, did you guys all have a great holiday break in one way or another, wherever you
Kathy and I made like bears and just hibernated to most of the part, recharging for the year. So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was hard.
So this is Mr. Elmer. Yeah.
Well, this is
I'm Dr. Mark.
Yeah, and like he said, I'm Elmer, and we are
Marc and Elmer's Psi. Piano Scene Investigations.
Absolutely. And if you were born, if you have a birthday today, guess what? You share the same birthday as, wow, I do not know this person.
Oh.
William Henry Holmes, English pianist, 1812 to 1885, was born today.
Huh.
And fast forward about approximately 18 years, we have Hans von Bülow, who was born today.
I'll put their pictures up if I can find.
Yes, 1830 to 1894.
Yeah.
And fast forward into the 20th century, we have Vladimir Feltzman.
Oh, Feltzman
was born in 1952.
I heard him in a live concert.
You did?
Yeah.
Wow, where at?
I don't remember, but I heard him. It was at a university somewhere.
Wow.
I don't remember exactly where it was, but I remember hearing him one time.
Wow, that's wonderful. So anyways, yeah, I know very little about Vladimir Feltzman.
But you've been sending a lot of birthdays early this month.
Oh, yeah, I have.
He does this thing where
I've been doing some study.
He does happy birthday to it, and he sends me a text message.
Yeah.
Very good. Clara Haskell was yesterday.
Clara Haskell was yesterday.
And then there's a whole bunch of them just here at the beginning of
the year.
Well, Mr. Brendel was one of them.
Yes, yes. And Polini was. And
Brendel and Polini
on the same day.
Yeah,
they were just only like,
wow.
I don't know, what, 5 years, 5-6 years apart.
Well, Polini didn't live as long.
No.
He still lived.
Yeah.
What, 70 something, right?
Something like that.
But Mr. Brendel, he made it like, what, 90?
I know.
Whoa. Serious.
Yeah. And then there was that surprise while I was working on the calendar.
Oh.
And my date book, my other calendar book says that this pianist was still alive. Right?
Yeah.
And so I looked him up to see when his birthday was, and lo and behold,
he
had really died on the day I looked him up.
Oh, who was that? You remember?
Gary Graffman.
Gary Graffman. Yeah, he just died recently.
Yeah.
Probably, if you don't know him, what's important about him in most recent history is he was Yu Wang's teacher and mentor.
Yes, and Long
finishing one. And Long.
Yeah.
Gary Graffman, wasn't he connected with Cleveland or something like that at one time?
Yes, he was. Yeah, he had.
Make sure we're talking loud enough.
Yes, he had really big connection, particularly with George Sell and the Cleveland Orchestra. He had recorded a Tchaikovsky concerto with them, and apparently the reviews were endlessly giving it solid gold accolades concerning this recording, and it is indeed a very beautiful recording.
When Sel found a soloist he liked, you were in good graces.
Oh, yeah.
The other big one was Fleischer, Leon Fleischer. I think they recorded both the Brahms and the 5 Beethovens.
Oh, yeah, they did.
And I've got this big box of Cleveland Orchestra with Zell as the director.
Yeah.
I still have never heard them live. And it's not that hard for us to get up there.
No, it shouldn't be hard. You know, the only thing I regret is not getting to hear them with Christophe Dopnati.
That's a while back.
Yeah,
But then Francois Zermorst has been the director now for some time, and he's retiring this spring.
He is.
He'll be done this
Well,
spring.
I did not know that.
I don't know who they were going to bring on, but
Yes.
there's been, I mean, Cleveland's special. There have been some, well, big ones. I mean, Mazel was there for a period of time, or
Yeah.
Mazel. Christophe Dopnati, I think, was really big.
Yeah.
Sell, of course, really
Yes.
brought, I mean, Sell was one of those directors that was like Fritz Reiner, or these various ones that came.
Yeah.
I don't know if Sell himself also was connected with Richard Strauss. Strauss sent a number of,
Yeah.
well, not that he sent them, but there were a number of the really great conductors pre, and then perhaps might say post-war as well, I mean Second World War, who had all studied with Richard Strauss.
Yeah.
They came over here and did some amazing things with our orchestras.
So, anyways, folks, please, I ask for your indulgence before we get down to business. Please, I hope you've been taking care of your pianos, and if you haven't, please look for a piano technician that knows how to take care of a piano. But meanwhile, if you want to keep that piano shiny and looking good, here's Corey's Piano Polish. Okay, there's different brands of this. This one's for high gloss. Okay, now, if in case you have a piano that's an antique. Here's lemon oil. Use lemon oil on that wood so it soaks it up, keeps that wood healthy.
Now I can use that in your Chinese cooking as well?
I don't know.
No,
I've never
I'm
tried
sure
it.
he can. There's food grade and then there's commercial grade.
Yes. So, here. You
I
have
was
them
just
both.
making a joke.
Okay, so anyways, let's start off the year really on a very good note, no pun intended. How do you want to start this? I mean, do you want to start with high planes, or you want to go to? You want to tell your story? Oh, wait a minute! You said you had wanted to talk about. You ran into a very well-renowned pianist.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I got a few, well, and I was going to ask Elmer to do this too. I was actually in a conversation and some people asked me, I don't know, it was in early December, something like that.
Yeah.
What my pianistic background was in terms of my education, who I studied with and everything. And I think part of what spawned me to look at it, I mean, I'm one of those people, you know, in India, they used to say, because I learned this by way of Ravi Shankar, the great sitar player from India.
Yeah.
When you see many pictures of him playing on stage in performances, there's always a big framed photograph on the floor there watching it.
Mm-hmm.
It was his teacher.
Whoa.
And he said that they have kind of tradition like that, at least from when photography existed. I mean, music's been there for centuries, I'm sure. But can you get that blue frame picture there?
Sure.
That inspired me, especially with one of my teachers, because he had an enormous influence on me in various ways. This was my between master's and doctor teacher. I studied with Howard Karp, as you know. I was a Juilliard graduate at Madison. Then while I remained in Madison, partially because my first wife, my ex-wife, had started her master's degree when I was almost done with mine. And then we stayed a little bit longer before I figured out where I was going to go for my doctorate. We were a total of 6 years in Madison. It was a fabulous experience. Wonderful place. But this guy's name, can you show it to me?
Sure.
Dr. Ellsworth Snyder. And part of what was kind of amazing is Ellsworth was born in the same city I was. A long time before I was. I think he was at least 30-some years older than me. But And he studied with the same piano teacher, very famous and important piano teacher in Springfield that my dad studied with, for example. He knew my dad, although I think he was 8 to 10 years older than Dad, maybe something like that. But well, I wanted to show you that picture and say that about it. But it started to make me think about my teachers and how much I respect them and honor them, and how I mean, I think I got this because I spent time growing up with my grandparents, especially my maternal grandparents. They're almost like a second set of parents to me when I was growing up. And I learned to respect the past, where things came from, origins and continuity of things like that. So I'll start out because I have some correspondence that I wanted to share. I don't remember exactly what brought me this, but I was on YouTube, I think. And there was a recent, well, let's put it this way, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I think it was, oh no, this might have been around COVID time. I think it was COVID time, so 5 years ago. With Malcolm Bilson, the great historic pianist and professor at Cornell. And he was, I knew what it was, I just saw the thing, a Silbermann forte piano, and I saw it was Mr. Bilson with it. And I thought, wow. So I turned it on, watched him, and he was being interviewed by one of those tone-based guys, I think.
Yeah.
I think that was the source for it. And he played some Beethoven and something else, but he was showing the Silbermann versus a somewhat later instrument, which was probably like a chance. So it's like a 6-octave range, 1815 to 1820 probably. But showing the Silbermann, which was basically a copy of Cristofori. The mechanism was some changes, but you know what they basically did? They took a harpsichord, took out all the plucking stuff, and replaced it with a hammer mechanism. But the interesting thing is it had some stops on it. Like the Silbermann piano didn't have, when you get to the time of the Anton Walter and Stein pianos that Mozart had, if you don't know, underneath the keyboard, there's little knee levers.
Yeah.
You can press either side. It does the same thing, whichever side you do it on, because there's no foot pedals. But what it does is it just literally, when you push it up, it lifts the dampers off the strings, so it can, ring. You understand too that with those early pianos, they don't have a tremendous amount of amplitude, and you can they actually liked where they would use the damper. Probably different than we do. We do it to release, of course, colors, but to make the instrument probably more vocal and less percussive sounding. And you have to be really careful to learn how to really flutter the piano stuff. I remember I got all the way to my master's when Howard gave me some great lessons on pedaling. He was looking at my feet and he said, "What are you doing? Like, what's your feet doing inside your shoes when you're playing, and stuff?" And I remember giving me lessons, but he studied with Rosina, whose husband was Joseph.
Yeah.
And Joseph was famous for his pedaling. The pianist said, part of the magic in his playing is what he does with his pedal. Yeah. But in these old pianos, they kind of liked it where it was just the ring, just a resonant sound. Yeah. You could still hear the fundamental tones very clearly. But with the Silbermann, it was interesting. There was no things. What you did is that you, like with a harpsichord, push these two little things apparently on the inside of the cabinet over the keyboard, and it would move the dampers out of the way somehow, and you can just play. So he had played a piece, I know what it was, he played Bach's First Prelude from the Well-Tempered Clavier on it, and it was down the whole time.
Wow.
It was ringing eventually. Anyway, I'll read you this letter I sent, and without talking too much about how it all happened, because I explained to him, and I wrote him this letter. I realized what it was a really pleasant surprise is that he's still alive. but he's like 90 or so. But clearly, from the video that he'd done only just a few years ago, he's still there.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't mean that as a thing, but, you know, people get to a certain age. Like my very dear friend and musical colleague and mentor, Norman Powell, was a violinist. Yeah. He was on my master's committee. He was the first violinist for a quartet. He's the one that, after I graduated, said, "Why don't you come down or come up here sometime? We'll read the Brahms sonatas." This is the first violinist of a quartet that had competed with, like, the Juilliard Quartet and other things. They didn't compete, but there was competition to award a Toscanini Prize, and the Priority was being considered for it. Yeah. I mean, amazing musicians, incredible people. They said, "Come do the Brahms," and we did. We played Brahms, Schubert, Beethoven sonatas, Dvorak, various things like that over the years. But Norman now, he's still alive, but he's got to be at least in his mid-90s. And apparently he's still able to, you know, do things. I don't know if he still drives, but he had been in his late 80s and getting up towards 90. He still drove. He lives down in Tucson, and he had been also still using the cabin he had up in Longs Peak, Colorado. I don't know if he's there now because his son might have taken over the cabin up there. But anyway, Norman told me a few years ago, that he didn't remember me. He doesn't remember folks. I mean, he's still able to get by day to day, but the long-term memory just isn't there. I wasn't hurt by it. I was, you know, life and age and all that stuff happened. Yeah. But what I was pleased by, I'm going to tell you, I just read to you the correspondence. And I wrote it, you know, thinking, this is Malcolm Bilson, you know. I know. It's like, in our world, you know, it's like... he's royalty, basically. Yeah, you know, he really is. And the man deserved it in terms of what he did with his career. Yeah. So here's the letter I wrote to him on January 3rd. Dear Mr. Bilson, you will not likely remember me. I came for, I believe, 3 trips to Ithaca from Madison, Wisconsin, around 1990 to 92. I took my master's with Howard Karp and subsequently was studying with Ellsworth Snyder. We had some lessons together at Cornell. My intention was to hopefully join the doctoral program, but the performance scholarship was given in 1992 to a British violinist already active in historic performance practice. While I was in Ithaca, I remember you took me with you to Trumansburg. It's a town around, I forget which of the lakes. They call them the Finger Lakes. They're very deep. It's almost like the Scottish lochs in Scotland. Wow. Really deep, 800 feet and stuff like that. Kind of narrow and very long. But you came out of Ithaca and went down and around the lake and over on that side, and down there was a town called Trumansburg. I remember you took me with you to Trumansburg to visit that wonderful piano restorer. While you conducted your business with him, I was able to play a fabulous Graf piano. You also allowed me a wonderful afternoon on a mid-19th century Bösendorfer up in a chapel on the campus. I attended a summer workshop at Goshen College that Marvin Blickenstaff put together, probably between 1990 or 1991, I forget which summer it was. You and a young musicologist from California, I think he became a professor back in the Eastern Midwest, we talked about him in the first year, who specialized in discerning 19th century performance techniques from recordings. They were the featured guests. You lectured from the fortepiano on the Mozart sonatas, playing all of them that week in concert. Jeez. As you are quoted with your first encounters with the Mozartian fortepiano, I too felt rather like an elephant on the poor thing. But what an expressive instrument. Immediately following one visit with you after a week on the fortepiano, I returned to Madison with a few days to return to the modern piano and play the Weber trio with flute and cello. God, that was an endeavor getting back on the big piano. It was. I ended up pursuing my doctorate at Colorado Boulder, where they allowed me to pursue my historic interests. One of my 6 performance projects was a solo and chamber concert on a Stein copy. I remember Larry Graham, fabulous pianist. He was a audience favorite at the Queen Elizabeth of Belgium in the late 50s, around the same time as Van Cliven won Tchaikovsky. I remember Larry Graham, who was on my committee, being quite fascinated with the whole thing. He was a generous supporter and admirer of my work, however, more so in romantic repertoire. While I was at Boulder, I moved forward into 19th century pianos. I figured you and your students had rather conquered the 18th century, so I availed myself of some wonderful instruments in the Front Range. There weren't that many. However, someone donated a straight-strung piano from around 1865. I was allowed the opportunity, with the aid of the university piano technician, to restore the instrument to playability. My father was a certified piano technician, and I'd learned a lot from accompanying him as a kid on his tuning journeys. And besides, as you know, playing these historic instruments often requires the performer to become something of an expert on the ins and outs of the old beasts. There was an English name, I don't remember the details, on the fallboard. Mm-hmm. However, my instincts told me, knowing, the history of those pianos and how they were built, like the English were building Broadwoods when Beethoven was alive. This piano functioned differently and it had a different damper system. And I just thought when I saw it, it just doesn't look English. So I said, it had an English name. I don't remember the details on the fallboard. This is really cool. I was very proud of myself with this. However, my instincts told me the instrument had to be continental. One afternoon while I was working on the piano, I noticed almost faint Braille-like lettering under the black name on the fallboard. There was like a black plate or a sticker kind of thing with the English name on it. But then I noticed as the light hit it, there was like bumps and things under the black stuff. I think it was paint, probably, that they'd done. They wouldn't have had plastic back then, so it's probably painted and they painted their name on it. So, remembering Cary Grant in North by Northwest,
yes,
when he uses a pencil to draw out a name and phone number from a pad of paper left by the bed.
Yep.
I took some paper and pencil and made an etching rubbing and found, of course,
color rubbing,
a French manufacturer's name. From that, I was able to track the history of the piano. A former doctoral student of Boulder, Teresa Bogard, who Mr. Bilson would know, performed a song recital with Dr. Robert Harrison, who went on to teach at the Jacobs School in Indiana, using this piano. Among the works were Beethoven's Die Ferne Geliebte and Schumann's Dichterliebe. They brought me up on stage, and the audience gave me a standing ovation for bringing the piano back to life. Wow. Anyway, I recently saw a YouTube video you made in 2020 playing a Silbermann forte piano. I remembered you immediately with such fondness for your generous spirit, sharing your time and knowledge with me. Even though I never had the chance to take a degree under what would have been your wonderful guidance, I want to thank you, nonetheless, for the considerable influence you had on my continuing interest and passion for the wonderful history of pianos and piano playing. I hope you're well, and I'm glad I have the opportunity to convey my unending gratitude. Sincerely, Mark. And on the 4th,
here we go.
Late in the day, on Sunday the 4th, I received a response from Mr. Bilson. I was so surprised. What a wonderful and interesting letter. I must admit to not remembering you personally, but your descriptions and years all do seem to line up. Thank you for writing. If you look up CCHK, which I haven't done yet, I haven't had time yet this week, Cornell Center of Historical Keyboards, I'll put that up for you guys too. You will see that we have just about everything, from the 1749 Silbermann replica that you saw me play on YouTube, through Grafs and Strikers and Pleyels to late Erards.
Wow.
You can find it online easily and see and even hear many of them. Here is a film I made for the center recently. I hope you'll find it interesting. And he plays it on a 6-octave Viennese forte piano. I'll put that particular web page up on the screen so you can see it. And he wrote, "Many thanks again for your letter and best wishes for the new year, Malcolm.
Oh.
So I read some things about him on the Wikipedia, and then I was kind of watching some other stuff, and I saw a performance he did of one of my favorites, the Jeune Homme Concerto of Mozart, number 9, in Hungary with orchestra in Budapest. And the audience was there and everything. And it was really wonderful. He was 70 when he recorded it, that performance. It's so exciting. And and his cadenzas and some of the gentle section of the slow movement, astonishingly beautiful playing on an instrument which is, some people think, a cheese cutter's instrument. Really beautiful. And I remember reading some things about how he got started with it. I think did he go to Bard College or something like that? But he's from Los Angeles. But he got his doctorate with some big guys at Champaign-Urbana in Illinois.
Yeah.
The really amazing thing is that he was trained at big piano, of course. And in 1968, he was offered a job at Cornell. Just like that. Those were the days, right?
Wow.
Comes up, but he had a doctorate, right? Which is not so common. He got offered a job, but you have to understand the history at Illinois, at Champaign-Urbana. I mean, was it, who was that one piano guy? It was Stravinsky's son or something?
Oh, Sollima?
Sollima. Yeah,
Sollima.
He was on the faculty at Champaign-Urbana.
Whoa.
Yeah, and Nicholas Slinemsky, I think.
Slinemsky was there too? Holy crap.
Illinois, Champaign-Urbana, I don't know now, but for a period of time, wow. We're talking like Korzhowski and Serkin out east, and then you have Slinemsky people in Illinois, not Chicago, down in the middle of Illinois. But that's where Mr. Bilson went. And then he ended up getting hired in 68. Well, it was 69 that somebody said, I have a Mozart piano that I would like to either donate or something to the university. And he knew Philip Belt, who was one of the early replica makers, very well respected. And Mr. Bilson had one of his, I think it was an Otto Walter copy by Philip Belt. Because Mozart actually preferred the Walters to the Stein pianos at the time. But Philip Belt came to Cornell that year, 69, when they had the piano, because he thought it might be fun to explore it and see what to do with it. Well, I forget what the actual vintage was, but it was an early 19th century piano, maybe Groff period or something. And Belt said, this is not a Mozart piano. Wow. And Mr. Bilson said, oh, really? Because, I mean, maybe some Europeans knew. Bob Druskoda and people like that, Jörg Damos, they had access to that stuff. But it was still pretty small audience. I mean, there's not a lot of people into that. This was 60 years ago, practically, right? Almost my whole lifetime. So anyway, Philip said, I'm working on making a real Mozart piano. And when I'm done with it, you can give it a shot. And that was the introduction to the instrument. And Mr. Bilson then talked about, he said, I was the most ill-suited person to play one of these things. Because he's tall, he has big hands. And, I mean, he's a very handsome-looking, Jewish, kind of, striking kind of guy. And he's quite tall, always lean, in good shape. But he did have pretty big hands and kind of biggish fingers. He said, it was a challenge for me to play this thing. And he said, I felt like an elephant at first playing it, because take these big hands with the technique you learn to play with the big piano, and it doesn't work on the piano. So I noticed his position is more like this. His wrists are a little down, and he plays very quietly like this when he's playing. But he did a magnificent job on that thing. And I'll put up this video of him playing that Jeune Homme Concerto, because the audience were doing this at the end of it. They were nuts for him. And he came out and he played this little Mozart fugue.
Oh, boy.
I mean, it's like 2.5 minutes. Insanely virtuosic. I mean, as nuts as anything that a modern pianist would come out and play, to show off something. absolute crazy little piece.
Yeah.
And really amazingly played and so clear and everything on the instrument. And the audience just roars. It's just crazy. Plus, the cool thing is, he announced what he was going to play as an encore in Hungarian.
In Hungarian?
He's told him in Hungarian.
Wow.
So,
what a guy.
Yeah, it was a wonderful experience going. Ellsworth sent me because he knew I was really interested in this stuff. Even before I went to Mr. Bilson, I was interested in the later pianos. I mean, earlier, saying early 19th century. It was in the, and it's too bad I didn't do or couldn't do more of that and even write about it, because eventually some people have done that. And you know, there've been amazing things written now and learned from piano playing. But I did get a chance to play lots of things, especially in Madison, because a ton of this stuff came through Tim Farley's piano store. And there was a Bilson graduate who had come from Cornell and settled in Madison. And I got to know him, and he was quite helpful and enthusiastic about sharing stuff like that. But I just wanted to share that, and I'll put up some various information from it on our film so you can see what's going on. But he's a magnificent man, and what I'm hoping is, if he wouldn't mind, I won't, do it too much, but I thought maybe I'd just try to write him again and ask him a couple questions and things like that. Wonder if he's reading, I'm sure he knows everything. Yeah. But that Scottish professor's book on 19th century performance traditions that I had been reading, I put it away for a while, so I was so busy. Yeah. But it's an amazing book. I'll put that up too. Yeah. So, do you want to read this, or do you want me to read it? The biography.
Go ahead and read it.
Okay, so I don't mean to be holding forth so much, but
that's okay.
I thought about this, and it is a sense I feel of pride. But as I wrote this down and thought about it, I thought, wow, I'm studied with people who knew people. Yeah. I mean, seriously. So this is Dr. Mark Haig, music teacher, history, legacy.
Oh. You want to let them know this is a bio?
Yeah, it's a bio thing that I'd written. I kind of sat down and wrote it because some people had asked me recently, like, what was my background pedigree, Okay. I suppose. So this is what I came up with. I come from a musical family. My parents and siblings were and are all trained musicians, although only my baby sister and I became professional musicians. The city of my birth, Springfield, Ohio, in comparison with great world centers, was historically, nonetheless, a remarkably significant town of great inventions, business, and culture. Springfield was at one time considered for the capital of the state, but as is the tendency in the United States, or at least historically, since all the capitals are already made, there was always a very fine decision between keeping business and government geographically distant from each other, because you understand, I mean, if the money gets involved. Yeah. So we eventually made Columbus the capital of Ohio, which at the time was in the middle of farms. We used to drive up here. There'd be some big buildings and stuff downtown, but the entire whole area was all farms. Everything was all farmland. Springfield, however, was, and if you read the history, there's some really famous inventors and people that created things there. They took the reaper and turned it into the harvester company, which then went from reapers to tractors to trucks and travelogues and buses and big super trucks and things like that. My dad worked there. So anyway, it was historically nonetheless a remarkably significant town of great inventions, business, and culture. It produced a pool of accomplished pianists. Ralph Circle, I got a little bit here to show you some of these people. Gene Geis, who was a child prodigy, who played the Grieg Concerto with Eugene Ormandy in the Philadelphia Orchestra when she was 14 years old. Wow. She went on to become a professor at the Cleveland Institute. Her name was Gene Geis Stell. I think she also did some guest teaching in Cincinnati and Indiana, but she ended up being permanent faculty at Cleveland.
Oh, he's back already.
Yeah, just as Amazon delivery.
Oh, okay.
I just opened the door downstairs.
Gotcha.
So, Howard Javel, and I have a little bit of stuff so you can show him a picture of him and stuff. He and my dad were only 4 years apart. You want to show him?
Sure.
That, I think 3 pages into it, is his picture as a younger man. He studied with Ralph Zirkle in Springfield, and Howard played the piano for the Army band or something like that, and he was played at the White House and stuff.
Whoa.
And, when he was a soldier and all that, and during the war. And he eventually became a professor at somewhere in Connecticut. There's a famous university, Western Connecticut, something like that. One of my colleagues, Russell Hirschfeld, eventually taught that same school. But my dad used to talk about Javel. He was apparently quite a pianist. And by the way, Ralph Zirkle, if you want to show him that. Ralph Zirkle was a very popular pianist and commercially quite successful. And he studied at Juilliard and eventually returned to Springfield, which was not a bad place to be at that time in the early 20th century. Because Springfield was full of money. Wow.
Yeah.
Big monster houses, leaders of industry and all that kind of thing. It was a very prosperous community to be in. Basically until the 1950s. Have you ever heard of Collier's Magazine?
Yes.
Big oversized home magazine.
Yeah.
I mean, what's his name? The American guy that painted paintings that appeared in those.
Oh, I have.
I can't think of his name. It was for decades. I mean, everybody had a copy of Collier's Magazine in their home. The magazines were all printed in Springfield, Ohio.
Whoa.
There was a massive printing plant in downtown Springfield.
So how far back does this go?
The Colliers?
Yeah.
Well, Colliers was like at least from the teens to the 20s.
Okay.
And it lasted right 30, 40 years.
So we're talking Rockwell?
Norman Rockwell, yeah.
Yeah.
He did some stuff, for example. But magazines, they come and go. This one fell out of favor. And even though they had some other jobs to do, they were basically there to print Collier's Magazine. And it was a massive plant, stretched 3 or 4 city blocks back from the beginning of it, and 2 or 3 city blocks wide. And that was all building, one building. When they first built the thing in the early 20th century, they poured these concrete pads and then brought in these monster printing presses.
Wow. And
set them on the pads. Then they built the 3 or 4 story building around that. Springfield took a hit then, at that time. In some ways, well, I think they're doing better now in the last quarter of a century. But for, let's say, from the 50s through the 90s, it was a downish time. Comparably to what was going on. Remember I told you, like, for example, I have a program from 1936, 32, 38, something in the 30s, when Sergei Rachmaninoff
I thought you were going to say
at Memorial Hall in Springfield.
Yeah.
A solo recital.
Yeah.
In Springfield. I don't forget where I got it from, but I keep it in that LP box of Rachmaninoff's personal recordings. Yeah. And, I mean, Springfield was a hell of a town. Really amazing things. So there's legacy and stuff there that I grew up in, which is kind of cool. And so let's see, Howard Javel. And then another student, famous one, was my teacher then only, Ellsworth Snyder, who also studied with Ralph Zirkle. My father studied quite assiduously with Juilliard graduate Ralph Zirkle. Unfortunately, my dad's early family situation was economically unstable. And despite his zeal and undiminished talent, Dad was still able to rattle off great repertoire and even sections of piano concerti at an advanced age. He'd sit down and just play some of the Grieg Concerto, the Beethoven Third, the Waldstein, different things, just, portions of it. He had a wonderful technique, really. He was unable to pursue further training beyond high school because of that. Dad arranged early lessons for me with Mr. Zirkle's teaching assistant, Dario Greenewald. Those were years of exacting and thorough piano study. She was a bear. A nice lady, more or less, but scary.
So I'm sure.
You know, just real old-fashioned piano teacher lady. She never hit me. Never had to. I was always practice hard and was ready, but it was tense when I think about it at the time. You know, and I studied with her probably for 4 or 5 years, I think. So anyway, at the age of 14, I told my dad I wanted to become a concert pianist.
Whoa.
I had been buying some records, and I got Arthur Rubinstein's Memoirs, the first book.
Yeah.
And I said, I want to become a concert pianist. Back in the day, that was not so unusual, right?
No, it's not.
He called the chair of the piano department at Wittenberg University, an historic, respected Lutheran university nearby. I thus began my studies with Professor Dr. Robert Wynn, one of the first products of the musical DMA, Doctor of Musical Arts program, at UCLA, a student of Albi Zerko, the first American teaching assistant of the famous Viennese pianist Arthur Schnabel, who studied with Leschetizky, a student of Carl Czerny, a student of Beethoven. I am proud of that lineage. No, my teacher studied with that teacher and studied with that teacher. You literally trace my teachers back to Beethoven. And this is a book that's written by, what's his name, Richard Brody. I'll put this information up if you want to spend the money to try to get the book. But I thought the cheapest I could see was $79. Mm-hmm. And I think it may still be printed new, but it's like a limited academic pressing. So those books are not a ton of copies floating around. But this is a good little article that's in there about stuff. Okay, so from Wisconsin or Wittenberg, I then continued my studies with artist Professor Howard Karp at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. You guys know this. A student of the legendary Rosina Levine, a founding faculty member with her husband, Joseph Levine, at the Juilliard School in New York. Howard and Van Cliburn, the famous winner of the inaugural Tchaikovsky competition, were classmates. Mr. Karp contributed enormously to my skills and experience as a pianist and musician. Before I left Madison, I continued my postmaster's studies with Dr. Ellsworth Snyder, a Springfield native who studied with Ralph Zirkle and knew my father. Ellsworth completed his studies with Robert Goldsand and Yeno Takash at the Cincinnati Conservatory.
Whoa.
Through Dr. Snyder, I was introduced to the American contemporary and avant-garde world, which was his great fascination, even meeting and getting to talk at length with John Cage. That was really cool. I told this story before on the show.
Yeah.
I moved on to the University of Colorado Boulder, where I pursued my own DMA with Robert Spillman and Larry Graham. These amazing artists supported my wide-ranging interests and challenged me to my limits. I completed my doctorate in a record 3 years. And I said there are many other musical influences by way of master classes and fortunate chance meetings and opportunities. Those I list in my resumes, just like master classes with and other teachers and things like that. Looking back on my life, I find I was a very lucky person to have been born where and when I was, to have had access to so many wonderful teachers and influences, to have traveled so far into the world, and to know so many delightful colleagues and students. As we share on our YouTube series, Marc Elmer'S Psi, Piano Scene Investigations, while not necessarily standing atop the historic iceberg of piano and music history, I am nonetheless one of those protrusions into that history, permanently connected to that massive, unyielding force of musical and pianistic passion. I am ever grateful.
Oh, wow.
That's my statement. So now you know.
Wow.
The basics of
Well, if he's one of those protrusions, I sort of consider myself just about a vapor, just trying to get formed.
No, I don't think so.
So,
but it's okay. I mean, like we point out in many cases, I mean, we've been pretty good about that sometimes in the show.
oh yeah.
Who the hell is that? But you remember like that one Dutch guy who was the founder for the the Concertgebouw Orchestra
Oh, yeah.
from the 19th century, and he formed a trio with two of his sons, played piano and cello. He was a pianist.
Yeah. What was his name?
I don't remember his name, but there was a house which is a museum, and he was a very important guy. It wasn't Roth, but it was something like, because he was German.
Yeah.
Right? He was born in Germany.
Okay.
And it has a name like Roth or something like that. And then he moved to Holland and spent a long time. Remember there, married his wife, and he worked as a music journalist for a period of time.
We talked about it?
Yeah, he was on the show. We put up pictures and all kinds of things.
Holy moly.
I have to look him up.
Yeah, we should. Boy,
I think from the very beginning, wasn't I listing the names of various people we talked about in the description? I mean, you don't have to watch all of them to find him. I'm sure it must be mentioned. But, Mount Horowitz is obviously one of those that stands on top of the iceberg.
Oh, no.
Mozart stands on top of the iceberg. Chopin's on top of the iceberg. A lot of the rest of us are...
And Bach is the iceberg.
I am the iceberg. I like that. I told my story before, right?
I am the water that holds you up.
But icebergs are famously about this much above the water and that much below. Yeah. And what we do in this show is just share our passion and the glorification of all of the people that have helped move this great art forward through time. Yeah. And we try to remember people and say a little thank you to them and keep them alive in a certain way. It's if you see my library, and I've never seen Elmer's, but I can imagine.
Oh, it's very comparable to this.
We're like old monks or priests or something.
Yeah.
The ancient libraries and that wonderful movie they did, Sean Connery, on that Italian story. Oh, the Name of the Rose.
Oh, The Name of the Rose, with the very young Christian Slater as a sidekick.
And Charlie Chaplin's grandson is the blind, crazy-ass monk in there. Yeah. Burns the whole place down. Yeah. But there's this...
F. Murray Abraham.
F. Murray Abraham is the Inquisitor.
Yeah.
But they've got this incredible library in this huge maze in the building. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of... I've always been fascinated by that. Yeah. I think that in the past existence, some of them spirits that are inside of me, some of them were like in the what do you call it? The Fellowship of the Ring and all that kind of stuff. Lord of the Rings stuff. Yeah. We were one of the magicians who lived in the funky house out in the forest with the towers, with with the books and the stuff all piled up. I can't tell you how romantically attractive that is to me. Yeah. Living on my own, maybe with a doggy, out in the woods in this magic house, just surrounded by knowledge and ancient wisdom and traditions, and being able to snap my fingers and create little sparkles of magic. And stuff. Yeah. I was almost picturing those paintings I've seen of like Galileo or Nostradamus, at their table looking through a book with their magnifying glass, surrounded by these huge shelves of books and information and papers and everything. They're reading through a candle as their source of light. It's a sickness of sorts, right? Well, we had to sacrifice something here to be who we are. So. But that's who we are. But you got a story to tell. Oh gosh. All right. Well, my story is a little bit more. Well, I never really studied with anyone really prestigious. Okay. I had started lessons with my mother. My mother had started lessons with her father. We're descended from Philippines, and back then when we talk about classical music, Western music, it was hard to find teachers in the Philippines back in the early 1900s that actually taught this stuff.
So our beginnings probably began humbly with our grandfather, my mother's father. You know, he was a young boy, you know, and he lived in a village just like all the other children. And one day, you know, they found out that there was 3 nuns coming from Europe on missionary work. You know, they opened up a school. They organized a church. You know, and eventually, you know, they had many kids come over to become students. My grandfather was one of them, and they noticed that he was very fascinated with these instruments they brought in from Europe, which were all donated to the church. And so they began to teach him, you know, about music. He had the best of all the worlds, basically. You had a French nun who was a musician. He had a German nun who was a musician, an Italian nun who was a musician. And so he had basically the whole world of European classical music right there, you know, to tell him all the stories, teach him all the instruments. After they were finally through with it, you know, at the tender age of 8 or 9 years old, he was playing the organ at all the masses.
Wow. How old?
He was 9.
Playing the organ?
According to my mother, he was only 9 years old when they appointed him as the church organist.
Wow.
You know, and so you're talking about a kid who could barely reach the pedal board, and so he was just stuck up here.
Wow.
And so he played the piano, he played the violin, he played cello, he played clarinet, organ, and you know, as he got older, he eventually, you know, found himself employed at the downtown theater at the closest town, playing the organ for silent pictures.
Cool.
And that's how he met.
That's a real art, because those guys were improvising based upon what was going on in the show.
Exactly. So, anyways, that's how he met our grandmother.
Oh.
She was from another community. The nuns over there were well aware of the nuns who were over here, and they decided to play matchmaker.
Oh.
And the 2 of them wound up eventually getting married. They eventually had 7 kids.
Wow.
My mother was smack in the middle. She is the 4th daughter, and she had 3 older sisters and 3 younger brothers. Smack right in the middle. Our grandfather, her father, eventually wound up being the chairman, president of the music department of the University of Santo Thomas, the university over there. So, anyways, he led the music department there, and he wound up being their conductor. They had an orchestra there, but I use that term loosely. Okay, you're talking about the early beginnings of a university, early beginnings of a music department. So the repertoire for the concerts was very limited. They had strings there, so they were able to play some string works by Vivaldi, Bach. But you know, they also had over here a few saxophones, trombones, and so you had to find.
Keep in mind, in the early recording days, when they all played in those huge horns, certain instruments didn't carry well. And so when you hear the classical music from that period of time, the music was rewritten for other instruments to play those notes. Brass instruments, for example, could project a lot better. And the bass stuff, string bass, you couldn't hear it. So they wrote this stuff for tubas. You know, and it's very interesting to listen to those really ancient horn recordings, because those were arrangements and ensembles put together to make the music happen, but it had never been imagined that way by the composer. So it's not entirely out of style.
No, not entirely style. But, you know, Grandpa was still composing at the time.
Wow.
You know, he was still composing. I guess...
Do you guys have copies of his music? music and stuff?
We do have copies of the music. Some of it is lost.
Yeah.
Okay, I have remnants. He had written a full-scale mass.
Wow.
And I have only a few pages of the first violin part. Is what I have at my archives, and that was the only existing evidence that he had composed a mass.
Is that
the first violin?
School where he was the president still in existence?
I think it is.
So would their library have access?
I don't know. I don't know. They might. Okay. Now I have to mind you now. He wrote quite a few songs for voice and piano. That's how it was scored. Okay. Now, if you're expecting something that's going to sound very Europeanish, you're going to be very disappointed. Okay. He composed music, that for public consumption in the Philippines.
That's cool.
Okay. And so for that matter, the music tends to sound more. It had Filipinoisms. Okay, so it's you're talking like a slight tango flavor.
Talk about the very early 20th century?
I'm talking very early 20th century.
Yeah, so keep in mind, when people like Astor Piazzolla went to study with Naughty Boulanger, or Aaron Copland went to study with Naughty Boulanger, and what was the cool and the big stuff at the time? Serialism, atonal music. Mm-hmm. Schoenberg, that was the new music,
Yeah.
All the young people were writing this intellectual stuff.
Yeah.
Nadia Boulanger had a huge influence on music because she said, like one time Astor Piazzolla comes in and working together, she says, "What instrument do you play?" And he said, "The bandoneon," which is kind of an accordion thing. She said, "Well, I've never heard that." She said, "Do you have one? Did you bring it with you?" "Yeah." "Well, why don't you bring it to your next lesson?" So he brings it to his next lesson. She says, "Play it." It's an amazing thing because they're buttons.
Yeah.
There's no keys.
Yeah.
And they're huge bellows. You put the thing over your knee and it's like breaking open a walnut every time.
Exactly.
It breaks, this huge thing. But it's a magnificent instrument and it has such a penetrating singing sound, in the right hands.
Yeah.
She listened to him play and she said, "That is what you should be writing.
Wow.
You should be writing music for that." And he became Piazzolla.
Wow.
Aaron Copland, his early music, isn't the piano concerto is a serially kind of thing, isn't it? No, but there's some early works that he wrote, which is that kind of Schoenberg-y kind of stuff, right? But then, of course, he became Appalachian Spring music, rodeo and things like that. And he created that sound,
Billy the Kid.
those fourths and fifths, those plaintive fifths, which makes you think of Oklahoma and the cowboys and the open American frontier and all that. When you hear the sounds, everybody wrote Roy Harrison and a lot of people, and Hollywood composers exploited the stuff.
Yeah.
That is what America sounds like,
Exactly.
And that was because of Nadia Boulanger's influence. So I don't think it's entirely out of place that your dad was writing, because also keep in mind, in Europe, Dvorak is writing music which is supposed to reflect the Czech spirit, the Bohemian spirit, in a Brahmsian kind of structure, in a Brahmsian kind of language, but still something different.
Yeah.
And then Brahms himself was writing gypsy music and Hungarian music,
Yeah.
Nationalism, the rising of the great populace and popular nation states versus kingdoms and monarchies and things like that was the world at the time.
Yeah.
And so I think what your grandpa was doing was completely contemporary with what's going on in the world.
Very much so.
Just commenting there. But
that's okay. That's okay. So, anyway.
This is a pretty amazing background.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's interesting. I mean, it would make it. I mean, this.
The guy was like the musical leader of your country.
Basically.
That's his grandpa.
This is my grandpa. Yeah.
Wow.
And so, anyways, as far as his family goes, my mother's family, she and her brother Frank were probably the last active musicians after my grandpa, and so Uncle Frank, he wound up being a band leader, and
In Philippines?
in Philippines, a band leader, and he did some songwriting as well. It's more jazz oriented. Okay, so at the time, jazz, particularly, I'm going to guess the 50s and the 60s type jazz was becoming a new commodity in the music world, at least in the Philippines. And so, anyway, so we fast forward. Mom's married. My mother gave me my first piano lessons. Okay, our first piano lessons, and it was so new to me. I remember the first time that piano came in Paramus, New Jersey.
Mm.
So you're talking 1970, 71.
What kind of piano?
It's a Kranich Bach.
Oh, Kranich Bach.
Upright.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I had no clue what this thing was. So here it is. It's being hauled into our apartment in Paramus, New Jersey.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't know what it was. My brothers and I are looking at it like, what is it? We're all shrugging our shoulders. But Mom, for some reason, so it was a surprise for Mom to see our mother come in, sit down on the bench,
And play it.
and started playing.
It's the first time you ever heard that?
And the first time who knew Mom could do this?
How old were you?
At 4. At the time, let's see, I would have been 6 or 7 years old.
Wow.
6 or 7 years old.
Uh-huh.
We were in New Jersey, and watching my mom play, and she'd sit there, and she had sort of this really stern, sort of serious look on her face.
Uh-huh.
Very serious. And all it was, what she was playing, from what I recall, was it's sort of that. You remember a while back when we did those music by Edward Holst and Gustav Lang, the Flower Song and the Dance of the Demon and all.
Yeah,
it was that sort of music that she played.
Yeah.
I guess she was more drawn to that.
They called that back in the later 19th century kind of parlor music.
Yeah, parlor.
It was classical, but it was being churned out like factory speed. All these different guys writing this music. And, people have gone to music school and learned how to compose and stuff. And there was a huge market because everybody was buying pianos and they were learning to play piano. They needed piano music. Not everybody was good enough to play Beethoven or Chopin or Liszt. So they were, appealing to a market where people were, comparable to the ordinary person nowadays. Yeah. Pretty well trained, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
But just not up to concert pianist level.
Exactly. So, but anyways, so that was my introduction to what a piano was. And eventually she was giving us all lessons.
All your brothers? You all took it?
All we did. All of us did.
So we were like the dumb ones who chose to be professionals.
The other ones. Yeah, they did. So,
but even the guy that kills people for a living, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
Martial arts dude. Yeah. He plays the piano. He played it.
Well, he played at it. Okay. He played at it.
Okay.
So.
One of his brothers is a highly ranked world martial arts guy. Yeah.
So, anyways, even him. Okay, he took lessons as well.
What about the scientist?
The scientist, he took lessons too.
Does he still play? Probably. He has the money to
he has the money for the piano, but he doesn't have a piano.
No way.
I mean, I think that's a thing he wants to forget. Something that he wants to forget. But astonishingly enough, though, I did see him sit down at the piano about 8 to 10 years ago, and I would have been 50 then. He did sit down and was able to pull a song out of his butt
and
play. And it was the only song he knew how to play.
Wow.
And he did remember it after all these years.
Wow.
But he's got a remarkable memory, though. He really does. He remembers a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. So, and our baby brother, he plays, but he's, once again, he sort of plays at it.
So is that piano still in your family?
It is still at the house.
Your younger brother has it?
Yep, our baby brother has it.
Wow.
It's at the house. So
Is it in good shape? They keep it up?
not really.
Oh.
So this strings haven't vibrated in a really long time, and so it's sort of thuddy sounding, so to speak. So
Pianos are like people.
yeah,
They like interaction, and if they get lonely for a long time,
yeah,
there's nothing energy vibrating or anything. They get kind of like we would.
yeah.
Also, I had a guy, interestingly, where I teach. He's the new secretary at the office now. I asked him, I said, over the break, because the upright piano in mine, one of the studio I'm teaching on Mondays. Seriously. I mean, like the bottom octave or so isn't vaguely related to the actual pitches in the middle of the piano. And I said, this thing, it needs tuning. I said, do you guys turn down the temperature while we were out of session? You save money on the gas, there's nobody there. And he said, well, I actually don't know. I said, I bet you did. Because, but I said, pianos are like people. If you're comfortable, it's comfortable. So, anyway.
All right. So we
still got your Kranich Bach.
Yeah, we still have the Kranich Bach. So fast forwarding, we go from New Jersey to Findlay, Ohio. In Findlay, Ohio, I believe we finally arrived, I think in 73, 74. And we were living in a house.
Like 10 or something?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, 9, 10 years old. And, little did we know how actually musical Findlay is. Yeah. There's so many musicians, and particularly piano teachers were in Findlay, Ohio. I was surprised, and I did not know this till I first went to the solo and ensemble competition in 9th grade. It was my first one, and I was surprised to see how many of my classmates were there, and how many of the piano teachers I recognized from Findlay, because the competition was actually over in Lima, Ohio. And so
I was going to just say to that, people don't realize, historically, Ohio became a state in 1803.
Yeah.
It was at the end of the Northwestern Territory when Thomas Jefferson was president, until they bought the Louisiana Purchase.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about the Great Northwestern Territory, you're talking about Washington and Oregon.
Yeah.
They're talking about Ohio, the Ohio Territory, which got a little small. They included parts of Michigan and Indiana, all that. But this state has, from the very beginning, really done well.
Oh, it's done very well.
Agriculturally, but then also eventually industrially. Because we got Great Lakes north of us, and we have the Ohio River beneath us, and we have some pretty sizable rivers running north and south.
Yeah.
And there have been some great cities founded in. A lot of people migrated here, I think, because the territory became available and everything. But the interesting thing, I don't know if this is still true, but it had been true, and I imagine there's no reason why it wouldn't be true. Yeah. There were more colleges and universities in terms of the population in Ohio.
Yeah.
It was like 80 something or
something like that.
More than even California.
Yeah.
And the only other place in the world which could stand next to that number was colleges and universities in the British Isles.
Wow.
Second in the world was the state of Ohio.
Yeah.
And I mean, well-funded schools. Mm-hmm. People were very proud in their cities and places to support them. Things like that. And there were lots of symphony orchestras and, good gosh, opera companies. What opera meant in earlier history was something a little different, but still, it's not a bad state to have come from.
It's not.
I mean, we're doing okay.
Yeah.
And we often refer to, we didn't grow up in New York, Chicago, San Francisco, something like that. But that didn't mean we didn't have access to what we could have access to.
Yeah. Well,
his town was a lot like my town, just a little smaller.
A little smaller.
And that always makes a difference in terms of the money and the things that are circulating. But still, Findlay, and you guys got a college that became a university, right?
Did, yeah. But, let me tell you something about Finleyville, okay? Some of you who remember Findlay, Ohio, might know that Don Roethlisberger graduated from our high school there.
Oh, I know that name. Why do I know that name?
He's the former quarterback for the Steelers.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Don Roethlisberger graduated from my high school much later than I did.
Wow.
But yeah, so when you talk Findlay, Ohio, and some of your grandparents or great-grandparents that are still around might remember the Marathon Oil building. It's still in Findlay.
Wow.
Okay. And some of them may even remember Cooper Tires.
Cooper
Tires is in Findlay. I don't know if they're still around, but last time I heard,
that's
was
a big
10 years ago, it's still there.
Those are the northern Ohio cities. They supplied Detroit with certain things they needed up there. Akron, for example, Canton, Ohio, Findlay.
Yeah. And it is also a major fracking area for natural gas.
Ooh.
So I think there was a time back then, if I'm correct, they advertised it the East Coast that there was natural gas in Ohio. And they said if you would be willing to open a business in Ohio, you would have free natural gas for a certain length of time.
Wow.
To keep you afloat.
Wow. There's a lot of gas in Ohio in general because there's a lot of German people that sell it.
Oh, God. Anyway, so Findlay, Ohio. That is Findlay, Ohio. I mean, we still have our, farmers there. And I remember a time when we didn't have a mall, and it became during the 80s and 90s, it was, it was the height of the busyness as far as malls go. Today, the Findlay Mall is very, very slowly becoming, if not already, basically a symbol of our past. It's basically a shell at this point.
Now, as the world knows, I mean, some of the stuff I'm going to show you.
Yeah.
Who needs a mall when you got Amazon?
Yeah. But it's nice.
It's a social thing.
Yeah. I mean, that was where we hung out.
Of course. Yeah.
So that's where Camelot Music.
Yeah, Camelot record stores. So, we told stories about that.
So, but anyways,
it was like the oasis in cultural desert.
Yeah. So, anyways, I'm still playing the piano at this point, and still have my mother, and she eventually has me enrolled into the college community music program up in Bowling Green State. I went there twice a week on Wednesday afternoons after school. And I spent my whole Saturday afternoons there till about dinner time, at Bowling Green State, taking my theory classes and playing viola for the youth symphony.
The town is called Bowling Green.
Bowling Green?
Yeah. Bowling Green is one of those American or Ohio universities, which actually, regionally anyway, in this state and in the area in the Midwest, highly regarded, and in the field of music, highly regarded.
Absolutely.
We used to play football against Bowling Green.
Yeah.
Wittenberg tired everybody's behind back in this.
Are you sure?
They were a great football
Bowling
team.
Green?
Yeah, I think so. We played Heidelberg, Bowling Green.
Heidelberg. Heidelberg. Yeah. Anyways, so I had good teachers, at least in Bowling Green State. Okay, they got me through music theory. They had me so well versed in music theory, I got exempted through my first year music theory class.
Wow.
When I went to college.
Wow.
Now, some of you out there who have seen me perform, know that I sometimes will sneak in a few of my piano transcriptions. That gift, had to be developed. I still have pieces that I attempted to write since I was 10, 12 years old. And I never threw anything away. simply because you never know when some of the material could pop up in your head, and you think it would have sounded better if you did this, which has happened on numerous occasions. And so, anyways, the only as far as other, as far as musical development, my most fruitful education musically came from a very dark place we all know. A very dark place where only the most curious and the most intrepid individuals would ever go. We all know it. It's called the library.
Oh.
Okay, sorry. It's my attempt to be a joke.
Spooky stuff. Oh, I get it.
So,
but he did go to a town where he went to college. It's famous for its ghosts.
Yeah. Finley?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that place. Okay, yeah. Well, anyway,
so you're talking about the library.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Finley Finley Library, and so that was where I got probably my interest in history, music history, composers. I learned it all there, mostly because I'd come home with these records, albums from Time Life, where they had these albums, boxes. Collections. They had these boxes with a composer's portrait in the front,
and a booklet in the front,
and a booklet. And so I was introduced to the Fritz Reiner, the Chicago Symphony, Eugene Ormandy, and the Philadelphia Symphony.
This guy,
Eric Leinsdorf.
When I hear his stories, we have such
very similar
lives. The way similar towns, and I suppose that's why the life is similar. But me too. I went to Warner Public Library. I worked there as a teenager for a couple of years.
Well, lucky you.
Yeah.
See, I was lucky only in the sense that if my mom didn't have anything else left to do, she would take us to the library, which would have been only once or twice a month. Okay. And so
Mom used to take us every 2 weeks. You could borrow as many books as you could read in that 2 weeks, but you ain't renewing them. You gotta give them back.
So
it was a wonderful library.
Yeah. So, and I was the only one using our record player to listen to the records that we had.
Wow.
And so
your mom must have been very proud of you. Thought of you as her special one.
Well, so yeah, I guess so. But we had our moments.
You're the eldest.
I am the eldest. Yeah. Eldest of 4 boys. Yeah. So, anyways, so I got the books. So I've been reading volumes of Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, and eventually I got to Liszt, and I was just fascinated by the fact that this individual had achieved rock star status.
Yeah,
because you try to talk to your classmates, in school about this stuff, and they won't be able to appreciate something like that. Okay, they just don't. Even some of the ones who go into music, you'll be hard up trying to find somebody even who goes into music to be interested in music history or music theory or anything like that. In my lifetime, I've met maybe 1 or 2 who were interested in music theory or music history. When I got to college, I had my old college buddy, and we would talk about music theory problems and have arguments over it. And we'd go over see the professor at the music building, and he'd tell us, he says, "Well, you guys cut it out." But yeah, you know who you are. But basically, when I finally got to college, Ohio Wesleyan University, I met Robert C. Lawrence, and he was probably the most valuable piano teacher I've ever had.
Wow.
By the time I met him, he was already pretty close to retirement age. He had studied with at least one major teacher I know of, Cecile Genhardt, from Eastman School of Music.
Yeah.
So he did study with her for a while.
Wow.
Now, if you don't know Cecile Genhardt, there is an entry in the Art of Piano by David Duvall. It's not a very large entry. It's about a paragraph long. But her teacher was Busoni.
Yow.
So she had studied with Busoni. Busoni studied with Liszt. Liszt with Czerny. Czerny with Beethoven.
To be honest, anybody that's in Duvall's book,
Yeah.
that's an achievement.
Oh, that's a very big
It's
achievement.
a really cool book. It's new to me because Elmer introduced me to it. But it's a collection, alphabetically,
Yeah.
of active pianists historically or
Yeah.
even contemporaneously when he wrote the book. A to Z, and he writes little biographies about them. And some have more than others. Horowitz's, of course, is extraordinarily long.
Oh, very long.
But,
so is Hoffman's.
yeah.
Look at Hoffman's.
But I would just say if you're in that book,
Yeah,
that's a compliment.
exactly.
You know?
And,
So your teacher's teacher
yes.
was a student, a
Cecilia
direct student of Ferruccio Busoni.
Busoni, yeah.
Wow.
So Cecile Genhardt, Busoni, Liszt, and then Beethoven. Did you know how all our teachers go back to Beethoven?
Everybody goes back to
Back to
Beethoven.
Beethoven. Holy moly.
He's
So-
like the progenitor.
So anyways.
Boy got around apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, that is the story of how I came to be here. So, and believe it or not, he and I really do go back. He doesn't,
I do. Well, I don't remember you.
you don't
Tell
remember,
much
but I do remember.
But it's
you.
like when Mr. Bilson said,
Yeah.
the dates and all the events
Yeah.
fit together. But,
Yeah. But I did see him play when I was 14.
yeah.
So,
We met again here in Columbus. After my dad died,
He had no clue who I was.
I had a big hole in my life from those few years I'd spent visiting and being with my dad a lot. And as it turns out, I had a health issue, and I went to this health food store called Raisin Rack, which is now closed, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And they had a job listing open.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily need the job, but I
Yeah.
felt like I need to keep myself busy.
Yeah.
They were looking for a manager of their cafe.
Yeah.
I had spent teenage years working in my dad's restaurant, and I thought, I don't do this. My dad used to leave me responsible as a teenager for the whole thing to close and everything at night.
Yeah.
And I got a job working in there. And this guy shows up at the lunch counter and introduces himself. Did you recognize me? Or you?
Well, actually, yeah, I did. Well, somebody who worked with you over there told me about you. He says, there's a pianist that works here.
Oh,
And I said, really? He says, when does he come in? He says, well, he comes on this day and this day and this day. And so I had to come see it.
oh.
But believe it or not, I did know you. We did meet one other time before that. It was over at Graves.
Oh,
You
the piano
prepared
store.
The piano.
When
Yeah.
when I was doing the
We
concert.
were going to do the concert.
That's
We were going
right.
to do the concert.
I
And I
do
saw your
remember that.
name. I saw your flyer on the outside of the recital doors, and I said, "Could that be you? Could that be you?"
Were you able to come?
I was not able. I was working,
Oh.
so at that time, yeah.
Did I give you a copy of the recording?
You did?
Yeah. It was a good concert.
Yes, it was.
It was a really special thing because I got to do that concert on Vladimir Horowitz's piano.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
That was a nice, welcoming introduction to Columbus.
yeah,
Would you like to use Vladimir Horowitz's piano for your concert?
yeah, yeah.
Did you get a chance to play on it?
I had got a chance to play it
Years
years
before,
before.
when it traveled
When it
around.
traveled around. It was practically going around not long after Horowitz passed away.
Yeah.
Not much longer.
Yeah.
I
He
think it
died,
was
what, 89 or something?
89. Yeah, and so I was still a nobody in Columbus then. And one day I heard that there was somebody that there was an ad in the paper saying that Horowitz's piano was going to be at Graves, and they were allotting 15 minutes time for anyone
15,
who wanted.
wow.
15, and that was it.
Madison, they were allotting half-hour slots to people.
No, just 15 minutes.
I mean, OSU with Earl Wilder and everything, piano students out the wazoo all over this city.
And that was my introduction to the music world here in Columbus, was getting to go in and play for 15 minutes. And then the lady at the desk said, the next person hasn't showed up yet, so you're welcome to stay for the next 15 minutes if they don't show up. And they never did show up, so I was there for half an hour.
Wow.
Then after that,
it was a very interesting piano.
It was a very interesting piano. I mean, the sustaining power itself was uncanny.
Yeah, the singing, the way it would just sing.
Exactly.
It had a whole extra bloom that most pianos don't have.
And to tell you quite honestly, I was more used to the sound decaying faster than that. And so playing that piano, you really had to do some adjusting or do something weird with a pedal.
It's almost like
to help the sound decay.
Inconsiderate of the singing line if you cut it off too quick. It made me think when I was playing it. Now, he must have Franz Moore design the piano the way he wanted it, right?
Well, according to Franz Moore's book, he said he found that piano over at the Steinway firm over at New York. And as soon as he started working on the piano, he felt something, a bit with the different action, the different quality of it. And he called up Horowitz right on the phone, and he says, Maestro, there is a Steinway piano here that you must absolutely try. It is so you. He says, you will love it. And the rest is history.
Which is interesting because, Horowitz, at different periods in his life, but he was a bit renowned sometimes for really pulling things and stretching things apart.
Oh, yeah.
His lyric playing especially. It's very persuasive and very effective.
Oh, yeah.
Some people thought it was affected and, a little weird. But when I played that piano, as I was preparing, I played my music that I'd chosen the recital program at other times. But I was lucky I had 3 days to work on the instrument before the concert. And I spent some time, as I got to play with it, I started to respond to what the piano would do. Yeah. And it made me, I wouldn't say I didn't play like Horowitz.
No.
But and I wasn't imitating Horowitz.
But it forced you that direction.
Leading me to want to allow the line to sing longer. Because it would.
Yeah, it would.
It would just keep ringing. And it's like when you take a doggy for a walk and the doggy wants to just kind of go a certain direction. If if you're cool with it, let the doggy take you for the walk. Or you can grab him by the leash and pull on his throat. That's what it felt like. It was kind of violent. It was almost violent to stop the sound.
Like this, instead of going out like this. It was sort of this.
Well,
the sound sort of floated.
Both in the keys and in the pedal, there was an amazing depth of possibility.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there was a way more room to affect the sound. Yeah. The other thing that was really cool is the dampers were super effective.
Oh, yeah.
It was like playing a harpsichord.
Yeah.
If you didn't use the pedal at all, and you just played like I played the Bach, it was wonderful because it was a piano, but the sound reminded me more of a harpsichord. Because the dampers were effective in basically stopping that singing sound.
Yeah.
So all you would mostly get was fundamental. Yeah. Wow, it was quite an experience. Yeah. I've never ever played a piano like that. I played some great ones like Shigeru Kawai, for example. Yeah. Well, I love those tremendously, but that Horowitz piano was very memorable. And I felt so privileged to be able to play it.
Yeah, exactly. And I made a rubbing too.
Did you?
The inside
Did you?
Stuff, so yeah. But anyways, the story doesn't really end there. So the lady at the front desk heard me playing, and basically I did some scales here and there and played a few pieces. And she asked me if I taught at Ohio State or any university. I says, no, I don't. He says, well, then she told me that they had recitals there, and they said they would be willing to make me if I was available. They would schedule me to use the hall for a recital,
Cool.
which I did.
Yeah.
And the lovely lady that was there, she became an avid fan of mine, and she went and called up everybody she knew to come see me play. So I had a full house at my first recital at Graves.
How old were you then?
Oh, I think I was 27, 28, I think,
Good for you.
years old. And so, anyways, yeah, that happened. And then I went after, it was on a Friday night, I played there. And after the recital, I went and had dinner with some of my friends. And then I drove home to Findlay, Ohio from here because my parents were expecting me. So I was visiting my parents in Findlay from Columbus. And I come back Sunday evening and I look at the first thing I looked was at my messages on the answering machine. This was before cell phones, folks. So I had an answering machine and the light was going
Cool.
like this.
Yeah.
And so apparently they were messages of all these people that had kids and was wondering if I taught piano lessons. And so that was...
That's money.
Yeah, no kidding, exactly. So, and I had no idea who they were.
Gold.
So, anyways, and the rest is just pretty much history. I got to know all the piano teachers here in Columbus in a very relatively short time.
First thing you know, old Elmer's Millionaire. And folks said, Elmer, move away from there. Coming down to Columbus and...
Yeah, exactly. It's close to that. Very close to that. But anyway, so...
Ohio Gold.
Yes. So it's now 2026, 88, 89, 6, 80, 89. We're still here. We've had our gains, we've had our losses, we've had... so... Anyways...
It's a good life, buddy.
Not bad, not bad. It has been an adventure, you know. At 10 years old, when I was over at the Bowling Green State at their college community program, all I had in my sights was thinking recording contract with Columbia and winning gold at the Tchaikovsky competition. That's all I had in mind.
Wow.
And I didn't do any of those. So, but instead, this is where I took the road less taken.
Well, he has a new fan.
What?
He plays at a very famous department store.
Oh.
From Iowa?
Yes, Iowa.
What was it called?
Von Mar?
Von Mar. And it's like one of the original kind of places, 2 floors and all the different departments. And a very nice place where they had live music entertainment.
Yeah.
And Elmer, especially the Mr. Saturday, plays in there all afternoon, right?
Pretty much all afternoon.
So recently, an Ohio native who had an enormous career at one time came in and stood and listened to him play one of his opera arrangements. And tell him what it was.
It is Kathleen Battle.
Yeah!
Kathleen Battle.
She brought some friends and relatives of hers to come here.
Yeah. She was curious, and I didn't know who she was at first until she mentioned a few things that she did. I was just sitting there playing excerpts from La Boheme, and I finally stopped. I finally stopped after the Musetta's Waltz number, and I says, "Well, hello." And she goes, "Hi." He says, "I didn't know they play opera at a department store." I said, "Well, I do from time to time." And she says, I asked her, "Do you play?" And she says, "No, I don't." She's still standing there smiling. And she says, "I sing." I said, "Oh, really? What do you sing?" She says, "I sing opera."
Yeah.
I says, "Wow, that's impressive." And I asked her, "So what do you sing? Or what works have you done?" He says, "Well, I did L'Elixir d'Amour.
Elisa d'Amore.
Donizetti. Oh, that's quite a task.
Yeah.
This is, you did the whole thing. Yes. You did. Wow. This is many years ago. I did it with Pavarotti.
Yeah.
What'd you say your name was again? And it says, and I says, you're not who I think. He says, and she smiled, standing there, says, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So
now, to be fair,
yeah,
she's got to be in her at least early 70s now.
Oh, but she still looks good. Folks.
Yeah, but and she went through some issues professionally in the early 90s or something like that. She's been out of circulation for probably at least the last 20 years.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, still, he has a little fan club now. This time, she came back a second time to see him.
Yeah, she did. She came back.
And really, we don't know, but we're assuming. Now, she was born in Portsmouth, which is down by Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And everything. She ain't driving all the way up from Cincinnati to go to your department store. She must be living up here.
She could.
Somewhere.
She might be. I'm not gonna.
No.
But it was interesting. I asked her. With her kind of career, I had to ask what she was doing at a department store, at Bon Mar. And she says, "Oh, I just want to go to the Apple store and buy a computer." And that was it. That's it. And he says, "Yeah."
But you're in the music.
Yeah.
The part of the building, of course, is in the mall, and music just sings out into the mall from there.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, it's not the first time that an opera singer came into the store, though.
Yeah.
I did tell you about this one. There was a young lady, a Korean soprano, and during my shift, I was playing O mio Babino Caro.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there playing it.
It's from Johnny's Kiki.
Yeah,
Puccini.
Anyway, so I'm about halfway, and all of a sudden I hear the singing in the background. I was like, oh, I'm thinking somebody knows it. So I just keep on playing. And then the singing gets louder, and I could hear it coming closer.
Uh-huh.
And I get to the big part, and
she's
they're
singing
just
with you.
belting it to the rafters.
Wow.
It was the most amazing thing. And pretty soon people are like,
wow,
at the railing watching this performance. And then I get to the end. And I hate to say it, folks, but the crowd goes nuts. Okay,
hey.
That high note was. And I had to. And she comes around, and she's like, and she puts her hand on my shoulder. I was like, oh my gosh! I had no clue who she was, but apparently, she is one of the premier sopranos from Korea.
Wow.
And so.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it couldn't have looked better in a movie.
He's such a humble man, rubbing shoulders with these great stars.
Yeah, because it was it was incredible. I hear the singing. It just comes closer and comes closer and comes closer, and all of a sudden, So
I can't remember the guy's name, Ralph something, who was Tony Bennett's pianist for a long time. It was like this. There was a brewery, nice one, in Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah.
I can't think of his last name. I'll put it up. Ralph somebody.
Okay.
And he played for decades for Tony Bennett.
You know what? I'll tell you what. We have one other music star from Finley High School. And this was before my time. Okay. His name was, I think, if I might be wrong, it's Scott Lavender. If you're out there, Scott, let us know. On our YouTube account or Facebook. I think his name was Scott Lavender. He played. I don't know what he played in the orchestra. He was in our Finley High School orchestra. But apparently he had learned. I believe he learned the Grieg Concerto in a single weekend.
Wow.
This is high school.
Wow.
And apparently he was so adept in music theory and arranging. He used to arrange songs for the jazz band there, marching band, and even the orchestra. And eventually, after he finished college, he wound up being the official arranger for Henry Mancini.
Wow.
What a
Philly,
gig, huh?
Ohio.
Yeah, this is Findlay, Ohio.
A lot of good people. A lot of good things come out of Ohio.
Oh, no kidding.
I was just going to say that whatever Ralph's name was, he would play late nights, sometimes once, twice a week, just to keep active and do stuff for fun in Boulder. I never saw this happen, but I heard about it for sure. Tony popped up 2 or 3 times while I was living there in Boulder, because they were really close artists and buddies for years. But he was older than Tony a bit, and he just decided, that's enough, I'm done. And he quit. And that was mostly Tony Bennett's band, together.
Yeah.
And then Tony went on from there to do all those famous albums with various singers and various artists and people, because his own band kind of slowed down. He kept active, for a long time. But apparently 2 or 3 times while I was there in Boulder, people said, well, it was written up in the paper too. By the way, last night around midnight, Tony was singing at this. Damn it! Oh. I would have killed to have been there for that.
Oh. Well,
so, what do you think? We got a little bit of time. I have to teach at 4.
You do?
So we've got another half hour.
Okay, yeah.
And what about you?
I teach at 4:30.
Okay,
but I gotta go.
Gahan or
Black
something.
Hair. Oh, Black Hair.
So I'm gonna plate up the stuff for Witch'n Kitch'n. You talk to them about something.
Okay.
That you want to do.
All right. Well,
I can probably do the thrifter thing.
Okay. Well,
very
I got
quickly.
a very short.
But I'm gonna go plate up and get ready for Witch'n Kitch'n.
All right, folks. If you've been with us for the last couple of years, you know what's coming up. You'll be familiar with what's coming up. It's called PSI's High Plains Thrifter.
1, 2,
Cool. Oh, well, welcome back. Welcome to PSI's High Plains Thrifter. We've had a lot of fun doing this for the last couple of years. I think this is going to be a permanent segment. At least, we may not do it consistently every episode, but it's always good to have, so you know what we find in the, what Mark calls chipping away at the iceberg to find new discoveries. So I bring forward to you a Liszt CD. It's a Lydian release of Liszt piano works. The performer you probably may not be familiar with is Athela Chuprik. Let me show it to you. Athela Chuprik. On the CD, we have on the first track a Sonata in B minor. Second track, Rhapsody Espagnole, Spanish Rhapsody. Track 3, Nuage Gris. You know what that translates to, Mark?
Nuage Gris is a kind of gray snow.
Gray snow?
No, that's neige. Nuage is, I think it means gray evening or something.
Gray
like
evening?
That.
Okay.
Yeah, nuage.
All right, well, some of you French people out there could give us a translation. Anyways, the fourth track is Mazeppa, the fourth Transcendental Etude. And the fifth track is the Barnstormer, Mephisto Waltz, number 1. Incidentally, for some of you young ones who are not sure about the Mephisto Waltzes, there's actually 4 of them, okay? And the Bagatelle without tonality was meant to be Mephisto Waltz, but he didn't. I guess he didn't feel it was. It earned the title for that, so he called it the Bagatelle without tonality. But anyways, Lydian. Interesting font here. Let me show it to you again for the Lydian label. Interesting. It looks like a sort of one of those Greek stamps or something. But anyways, this recording came out in Budapest in March of 1992. The program notes, music notes, Keith Anderson. CD is produced by Jeno Simon, music recording engineer Gabor Moshari. The cover painting, the front cover painting by Benjamin Chai, Chai. So, anyways, so looking through the program notes, there's plenty of notes here about the program. And sadly, there is no information about the performer, Athela Chuprik. But don't worry about that. Guess what I did? I actually took time to look it up, so we will know who Athela Chuprik is. Where is it here? I know it's in here somewhere. There it is. Okay, Athela Chuprik. Born June 20th, 1964. Passed away in 2019. She is Ukrainian. She was a pianist, a professor of piano at Mykola Lysenko National Music Academy of Lviv, Ukraine. Started lessons at 3 years old. Wow. What were you doing at 3 years old? Holy moly. I'm not even sure if I was even able to talk yet at 3 years old. She's done master classes both with Vladimir Biardo and Vladimir Kranev. Very popular names there. She has competed. She has taken third place at the All-Union Rachmaninoff competition, which would eventually become the International Rachmaninoff competition, but she's also taken third place at the Liszt competition in Budapest. So that's quite impressive. Anyways, this has been my traveling music for the whole week. She's very good. I like especially her legato and a lot of the lyrical episodes of some of the pieces. Interestingly enough, she starts off the more virtuosic pieces in a manner that you think that her dynamics are going to be somewhat limited until you get to what I believe would be the highest point of each work, and then you know the possibilities of how much sound she can actually produce. It's actually quite surprising. But anyways, give her a listen to sometime. Anyways, so for right now, that's what we have for High Plains Drifter. I believe our maestro is ready. I know this is abrupt, ladies and gentlemen, but we're going to start a new segment. This is going to be PSI's Witch'n Kitch'n. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to PSI's Witch'n Kitch'n. And the maestro's coming over here. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Just want to show them that before we start
devouring
it. And I'll tell you all about it while we sample it in front of you. This is Circassian Chicken. I also included some labne, which is a kind of a yogurt cheese from Turkey.
Wow.
I'll explain a little bit more about it. Of course, I'll put the recipes up online. But Witch'n Kitch'n started out because, obviously, more so in my case, but both of us love to eat.
Oh, yeah.
And, we're kind of amateur cooking enthusiasts.
I'm a beginner.
I have a library of, I think I counted them now, it's over 130 books. And then I've got tons of recipes saved in the Southern Living digital cookbook thing.
Wow.
And New York Times cookbook. I got all kinds of stuff saved. But
Wow.
I was thinking, go ahead, please, Nate. Go ahead.
Okay.
It should be room temperature. It's not hot.
All right.
You don't have to worry about that. So this is, let me tell you about it first, and I'll tell you how I came to it. This is Circassian Chicken, which is a chicken dish from Georgia. And I ain't talking about down south. I'm talking about Georgia in Russia. You know, like where Stalin's from and people like that. And the recipe per se is from a Turkish cookbook that I had. You can find it in various places, but this one was a very pure and simple recipe for it. When I first had it, now talk about how it came about for me, I was stunned by how wonderful it was. Now I tend to manipulate the recipe a little bit. You like it?
This is very good, Mark.
Yeah? Okay, good.
My goodness.
So I'll tell you how it comes about. Well, Circassian Chicken is from Georgia, and it's known by way of Russian cooking or during the battle between Russia and Turkey, the Crimean War period of time stuff, which to some extent was between the Ottoman Empire and the Ruskies and the Armenians and so forth. And basically it was a bit of a cultural religious war because the Russians were, at the time, still non-Soviet. This was before the Soviet time. They were Orthodox Russians, and the Armenians, you know, is one of the oldest Christian cultures in the world. Mm-hmm. And then famously, Lord Byron wrote, not Lord Byron, Longfellow, wasn't it? Who wrote the poem about Canada's the right of me, Canada's the right of me, all that. The battle with the British and all those kind of things. But anyway, the Georgians left after that war and came to the Ottoman Empire. They would have been Muslims, most likely, because they chose to leave the area after the war, which had been very culturally and religiously divided. There is that, sorry to some of my Turkish friends, but historically there's still a great argument as to what happened. In the early 20th century, there was a forced walk and migration of Armenians in the Eastern Ottoman Empire over in what's now Eastern Turkey. Lots of them died. It's kind of like when the Cherokees were forced to walk from Georgia and Florida and such west to Oklahoma. They call it the Trail of Tears in our culture. Andrew Jackson is the most hated American president by the Native Americans because he really rooted him out of the South and helped with that forced kind of stuff. Well, this is kind of the Armenians' Trail of Tears. And it's why there's a great Armenian population in exile, in a sense, in Canada, for example. A lot of them are artists, filmmakers, musicians, people like that. Turkey has never owned up to the fact that there were lots of Armenians, perhaps more than 1 million, who were massacred, killed. And that's a historic problem still between Armenia and Turkey. But anyway, Circassian Chicken made its way west by way of probably Georgians who were Muslims escaping from the conflict, settling into Turkey. And so now you find it in Turkish cookbooks. But the way I got to do it was, I was remembering, and this is musically connected again with food and so forth, La Bonne Cuisine. Do you know this? Composition of Leonard Bernstein. 1949, he took 4 recipes from his French cookbook and translated them into English, and then wrote these 4 songs, which take approximately 4 to 5 minutes to perform. They're humorous. It's meant to be humorous. Okay. They're songs about food, about recipes.
Cool.
4 different recipes, each one dedicated to a famous socialite lady in New York or Boston.
Oh, wow.
And he did a lot of performances of it with Jenny Turrell, who was one of his favorite sopranos at the time. I think the inaugural performance was given by a different singer and pianist, but Bernstein recorded them with Terrell.
Wow.
Well, I was a little confused in my mind initially how this all came about for me, but I finally figured it all out. I remembered. When I was in Madison, Madison was a very important place for me musically. All the people I studied with there and everything, and the experiences I had, very memorable and very significant for me, especially the time with Ellsworth. This is post-Howard, so I'm with Ellsworth. And Ellsworth was the music director at the Unitarian Universalist Church, which was called the Frank Lloyd Wright Church, because Frank Lloyd Wright from Spring Green nearby had come and designed this building, and I watched them and helped them as the church members often did a lot of the building, put it together. It's famous because subsequently a lot of churches that are designed like this one, when you see the front of it, it looks like hands in prayer. And there's a big triangle, and then another one that comes down on the hill and meets, and it's all glass. And it's very Frank Lloyd Wright. Ellsworth had been a professor at a school, I can't remember right now exactly what it was called. It had closed at some point up in Wisconsin. The school was smallish, but a good one, but they ran out of funds and decided to shut their doors. And Ellsworth was in a long-term relationship with his friend Sam, who was a highly revered Shakespearean scholar at Madison. And they lived together for years. I mean, married in a sense. Couple, very strong couple. Ellsworth, in the meantime, became the music director at Unitarian Universalist Church and developed that into the other music program in the city, other than the university and the city stuff. But very famous. And he was able to attract all of the great artists in Madison. I mean, so many people came and performed at the church. And then in the summer, he had this summer concert series for 6 weeks. And I did some performances there. So one of the things that he arranged, I don't remember which of the women was the singer, but he had some decent sopranos, really, in his choir and people that he worked with. And Ellsworth had built his career around avant-garde and contemporary music, and he was friends with John Cage and Morris Cunningham, what's his name, Earl Brown, or I can't think of his name, and new painters and all kinds of famous people, and had a career as an avant-garde artist, very seriously trained. When I went from studying with Howard, he kind of broke me down and retaught me how to play in a very Robert Goldsandy, Central European kind of way, with kind of floating arm technique, but a lot of wrists loose, that's your throat and your breathing and all this kind of stuff. It wasn't entirely new to me because Miss Vatil, a Hungarian lady, had taught me some of that one summer a few years before. But it was interesting because he had a very lovely, kind of quiet but easy technique getting around the instrument. But sometimes he would play really amazingly contemporary programs and things. So Robert Goldsands, one amazing pianist. We've heard his recordings from Marsden.
Yeah, Marsden.
Anyway, one of the things I played at the summer concert series during periods of time when I was there. And that summer, I remember there's French music. And I played the Poulenc cello sonata with Warren Downs, who had been this young, brilliant cellist who was, as a young man, I think like 21 or something like that, became the principal cellist for the Cleveland Orchestra with George Sell. And played with him for quite a while. He eventually got to a point where he'd been doing it for so long, he decided to do something different. And he became a scientific weather kind of guy, Oceanic Institute kind of thing, something like that. But he had a position as a professor at Wisconsin.
Whoa.
But he still played cello, and he was a wonderful cellist. And we did the Poulenc cello sonata. I've got a recording of it, actually. And then I did La Bonne Cuisine with one of the singers. Now, I thought that this is one of the recipes that came from it. So it turns out the Turkish recipe is tavuk göğsü, which is chicken pudding. It's like a sweet, milky pudding with chicken breast in it.
Oh.
It's an Ottoman kind of dish. So that wasn't it. I was thinking, well, damn it, how did I come up on this recipe? Well, it's because there was this wonderful lady named Carol. I can't think of the last name. She was like UW Wisconsin's advisor to English majors at the bachelor's level.
Yeah.
It was a big job, big position. And then she otherwise was one of those Jewish ladies who was like the queen of the parties, party queen, receptions and things like that. Her house existed fundamentally for guests to come and have parties. She would just.
Wow.
I lived one summer after I'd moved away from Wisconsin to Colorado. Came back and worked that summer in the summer festival one last night, and I stayed in Carol's house. And I realized when I saw inside the refrigerator and the freezer, she had things in there ready at the drop of a hat to throw a party. Wow. Stuff ready to go. One of the things I remembered then, where I first had it, she served Circassian chicken at the party. And the thing I always remember about that, Ellsworth used to say, I would love this about him, this kind of humor. He said, dear one, he often said to me, he said, dear one, he said, now, there's going to be a little deception after the concert. Not a reception, the deception. He understood the political nature of all that, right? You chat it up, make connections, all that. There'll be a little deception after the concert. But then after that, we'll go to Carol's and have the real party. That's very good. She lived in a house just a little bit drive down from where the church was. And anyway, I had this Circassian chicken and I loved it. And I made it on occasion. I hadn't made it for a long time. But I thought, I was just thinking about something which is specifically musical, because another cookbook I have is the Arthur Golden Robert Fitzdale book, the piano duet. Who did a wonderful cookbook. And at the beginning, it's a tribute to George Balanchine, who was a great
choreographer,
and cook.
Yeah.
And I actually made some dishes from that for some friends of mine at Madison one time when I was living there. That'll show up at some point too. But the Circassian chicken, and I'll put the recipe up there, but served cold, and it's got all kinds of nice things in it, as you'll see. And I put some labne, which is, how do you say what it's like, a sour cream consistency.
Yeah.
But it's more tart and yogurt. I think it is actually comes out of making yogurt. But it's not, it's like even thicker than Greek yogurt. And then I made a kind of a steeped olive oil sauce in a way with some Hungarian paprikash. And put that in both the cheese and the chicken, and we got some pita with it. But so that's our recipe for Witch'n Kitch'n, which is Circassian chicken, which celebrates some of my experiences, and very specifically is thus connected with music by way of having performed La Bonne Cuisine the first time. I did it again in Colorado with it. We performed it. It's a fun little work. You can look it up on YouTube. There may even be a recording of Bernstein with Jenny Jarrell. I don't know. I didn't look. But I thought we'd start out the year with something simple. Actually, I have a surprise for you. I won't tell you what it is. But I found a recipe that I put aside that's very specific and unique to something important with Elmer.
With me?
Yeah, but I'm not going to tell you anything about it because it'll ruin the surprise. But maybe that'll happen within the next 2 months.
Oh, God.
Well, I don't know. I'm not guaranteeing we'll do Witch'n Kitch'n every show.
Yeah.
But it depends on how often
That's
we do the shows. We were doing them approximately once a month or so last year.
Sounds good.
So as we started, actually, just because I was excited about it, we got started around Halloween.
Yeah.
I kept doing it every show. I think the last 3 or 4 shows we did.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I'm not going to do that every single time. But
you should.
But so that's Witch'n Kitch'n for 0201 in 2026.
Yeah.
It's so. What do you think?
Oh, it's delicious.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Good. I'll put the recipe up on the screen for you. And meantime, well, we almost have to finish soon, but probably got 5 minutes left. But we'll close with the Witch'n Kitch'n and finish up the show. Maybe I'll save my stuff.
Sure.
All right. So bye-bye from Witch'n Kitch'n.
Have a good year.
I miss the boys. Not being here. Yeah.
I like it when they got upset by the hats.
Yeah, they always get upset. Just be why got it. Maybe
Well, the boys like their hats.
They always do. Okay, we're back.
Cool.
Go for it.
Oh, we're back?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well. Well, we'll make the last part short. It's okay if I put this on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, and I know this is a lot to be covering in one episode, but and I know most of you like doing this, but for all of you viewers, old and new, we are at PSI's at the movies. Back in?
Yeah, we're back.
We're back?
We're back.
Oh, we're back! Oh my goodness, that was fast. Okay, so, PSI at the movies. All of you know it. I have something very unique here, and it was very difficult it was difficult to find this one. And I think I found it by luck. This was at a thrift store, and all I wanted to do was just go to the bathroom between lessons, and I saw this right almost near the door. So anyways, I've heard of this movie before, but was never able to find it anywhere. It's not about piano music. There's very, very little piano in it. This movie stars Tim Roth and Clive Owen.
Wow.
Recognize the name Clive Owen?
Yeah, he's a spooky guy.
Yeah, well, he's a spooky guy, but he's the main character in the movie 300 that came out about 8 to 10 years ago.
Greek guitar.
Yeah. Anyways, this movie is about violinists. It is called The Song of Names. It's a release from Sony Pictures Classics.
I don't know it.
Neither did I until I saw it. So let me give you a rundown on what this is. Tim Roth and Clive Owen star in Francois Gérard's sweeping historical drama about a man searching for his childhood best friend, a violin prodigy orphaned in the Holocaust, who vanished decades before on the night of his first public performance.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I know. I had to, and I won't give you any spoilers, but I did see some of the trailers. I looked up the trailers for this movie on YouTube, and there's one or two clips from the movie, and it actually looks really, really good. So let me see. The movie came out in 2019. As I said before, Francois Gérard was the director. Jeffrey Kane is the screenplay writer. And get this, the author is none other than Norman Lebrecht.
No way.
Yeah, he's the author
of this guy.
of the book.
Wow.
He wrote the book. He's also co-writer for the screenplay. Tim Roth plays the character Martin, and Clive Owen plays Dovidel. Dovidel, or well, he's Polish. And I guess the English translation of that is David. Okay. Now to get to the music part end of this, the composer soundtrack to this film is Howard Shore.
Oh.
And you have a whole list here of musicians who does some of the classical playing in this movie. I'll save the best one for last. There is a Tartini sonata performed, at least a slow movement, by another violinist named Max Macmillan. There is a Bagatelle G minor from Opus 126 by Beethoven, performed by Anna Marie Mackay. There is a cello piano arrangement of Fritz Kreisler's Liebeslied. It is performed by Aaron Ratke and Esther, that's how Eszter, Esther, I guess, Touros. Clarinet player is in the movie. I don't remember what they play, but her name is Esther Lugosi. But the main violinist, the master violinist that does most of the violin and virtuosic playing here is none other than Ray Chen.
Wow.
Ray Chen. So some of you may know him from his YouTube channel, Ray Chen. He visits all parts of the world. Very famous concert violinist. Graduated from Curtis Institute. Some of his most memorable moments was when he was a special guest on the two-set violin. So my favorite particular one episode is the one where they talk about how the Chinese violin teachers traditionally train their young violin proteges. And he said he would let them sleep and he would wake them up at 2 a.m., sometimes 3 a.m., to have them play through the most difficult parts of a violin concerto. So, anyways, the one episode I was referring to was the one where they sat up at night, played video games. They sat up and played video games, I think, till about midnight, only to know that they only got, when they were woken up, they only had 2 hours of sleep. And they were asked to perform or play for, I think it was Eddie? Eddie, yeah, I think it was Eddie, the taller one with the glasses. He picked parts of the Mendelssohn violin concerto. And it was so funny to watch them try to play after having only 2 hours sleep. Anyways, Ray Chen was particularly funny in this because he's standing there, and he rattles off the most difficult parts of the violin concerto with hardly a hitch. But then his other buddy, what's the name of the other guy? It's not Eddie, but
I don't remember.
The smaller framed one.
Yeah.
But anyways, he then had to play the same passages, and I guess there was supposed to be a punishment if he couldn't do it. And so Ray Chan's over there going, okay, you can do this. He's standing there going like this, while trying to egg him on to give him confidence that he could get through it. And he would get through it. And it looked like he was just getting by the skin of his teeth through some of these passages. But to watch Ray Chen go there, go, with the expression on his face, egging his buddy on to get through the passages. And I don't remember what happened after that, but anyways, I have not, back to the movie, I have not seen this movie yet. So it's, like I said, if you're interested, go ahead and check the movie out. It's called The Song of Names. There's some very touching moments in the movie. Much of the movie takes place when they were children. So you get to see the boys, meeting each other for the first time. And there's points in it where they travel together. They're in a train. And the one, David, finds out that there's another violinist, another child protege prodigy in the same car that they're staying at. And apparently, from the looks of it, they were traveling third class. So there was no seats in the compartment, and everyone's crowded. And so his buddy Martin says, well, there's another violinist here. He says, let's call him out and see who he is. And he says, okay, we'll do it. So he opens his violin case, pulls out his violin, and plays the opening theme to, well, the Paganini Caprice number 24. You know the one. So, anyways, so he finishes playing the theme, puts his bow down, he's still holding his violin, seeing if the guy comes up. And he does. He looks down the aisle, and this kid, I think he must have been about, roughly 13, maybe 14 years old. So he's a few years older, and he looked taller. Anyways, he's pulling his violin, and he plays a different variation in the thing, and he's all over the place. Meanwhile, that after finishing the variation, he puts his bow down, and he plays the next part. And so they finally get to the final ending, the last page, concluding pages of the Caprice, and they're both playing at the same time. Wow. It's an absolutely amazing scene. Wow. And, you know, the two boys, you know, they finish together, and everybody's clapping, you know, and David sort of gives him, you know, a look of approval like that, and the other kid turns around, you know, you look at him, he looks at him this way, and he says, not bad, kid, you know, and walks off. And that was the encounter they had on that boxcar. So, but anyways, yeah, interesting movie, interesting excerpts. So, if you've enjoyed today's episode of our first one for the year, 2026, please like, subscribe, comment, let your friends know, let your co-workers know, let family know. Come back next time for some more.
We got some stuff that we plan to share with you today, which we'll do in the next show. Yeah. Okay, this is Dr. Mark. I'm Elmer, and we are Marc Elmer'S Psi Piano Seed Investigations. See you, folks. Bye-bye, everybody.